The worst thing that is happening right now in my studio here is that I am breaking rule I have been told about composition and lines. And do you know what? I really don't care. So this session is about that, breaking the rules, and why should we absolutely follow what somebody told us to do unless it makes really good sense. It might and it might not in some cases. But before we get started, I have a newsletter you can sign up for. I post regularly blog posts. I'm an awarded photographer from the Danish Journalist Association, and I post about photography, not so much technically, a little as well, but mostly about how we approach photography, and this is what it's about. Sign up for the newsletter and get news about that and workshops I teach all over Europe. You're also welcome to follow the channel, of course, hit the button below and visit my website. Rules are to be broken, but you have to know some of them before you break them, else you can't know where the limits are, is an often used phrase. I have used it myself. I'm sitting here at the table. The lines are wrong. I put my camera at an angle so I do not follow the straight lines of the table, and I witnessed a photographer once telling another photographer how she could improve her photography but by having straight lines in her photo or video or whatever it is. And to be frank, I didn't even notice that should be a fault in that, in my eyes, nicely composed picture. There's no reason to have straight lines unless this is what you want to evoke and express with your photography. If it is straight lines that have your interest, then do that. But for what reason? If it is reportage, if it is street photography, it is anything else than necessary to think about all those rules. Rules of thirds is a great thing to know about when you compose a picture, but you don't need to know it and have it in your mind for every single picture you take. Sometimes it's a balance between light and shadow, the weight in the picture, and this is something I teach at my workshops, also in the upcoming workshop in Rome and Copenhagen. And I'm going to Rome today when this is published. I'm on my way, I'm sitting in an airplane. And I teach that instead of those strict rules, because if you are so uptight about fulfilling the dreams of rules, then you miss all the important moments, then you miss the energy, then you miss the feeling of the photo. And that's far more important than it is fulfilling somebody's wishes to put things up in a scheme. It is good to know the rules of thirds. It is good to know about balance in a picture, but not the strict way where all of these things complicate what should actually be easy. Take a photo of a situation. Make an expression of what you think about. It can be a simple coffee cup you take pictures of. It can be people in the street. It can be a portrait. It can be buildings and what's happening around them. All of that doesn't necessarily need all those rules put together and put over them, because that kills the energy of the photo. Steven Spielberg were once told, when he was in a meeting about composing movies, and he is really famous for his compositions in the movies, he was told that straight lines just in the middle of the picture is boring. Even when it followed the 2/3 rule, it was boring. The tension happened when he was told to lower it or rise it, so there was kind of an unbalance. Then tension became interesting. Then something come alive in the picture. So as soon as you begin to play with all those objects and avoid thinking so much about the classic rules of thirds, which again are good to know, but also very good to put away, then you have freedom in your photography. And that's really important. But how do we free ourselves from that? Well, we have to go out practicing. We need sometimes somebody to teach us to see it differently, which is important. And now I'm sitting here at this odd angle. For some who are rigid, this will be an off picture. For me, this framing is perfect because you can see what's in behind me. The lines that are not going straight from the camera into the wall is more interesting and less boring than straight lines. I have had a habit because somebody taught me years ago, always straightening up my pictures in post-editing. So now I'm trying to free myself from that, because why should I, unless it is important to have straight lines. If that is the soul of the picture, then do it. But if it isn't, why bother trying to make it really perfect? Because when you have a lens with a little distortion, even a 50mm lens will have a little distortion. Wide angle lenses have more distortion. Then it doesn't matter if you have a straight line in one edge, then it will be off in another. And sitting there fiddling around trying to make all that perfect sometimes kills the energy and the soul of the picture. So I'm stopping doing that. I promise myself, and I promise you who go to my workshops, that we will not look at those things else than as a freeing, liberating, throw it away thing that we will not use energy on. Instead, we will use the energy on creating pictures that have some interest, and that interest can be anything from what happens in the frame, odd angles or not. But talking about odd angles, an old photojournalist trick is, if you have a boring picture, a really boring picture that needs some attention and you couldn't find it when you were there, then you're tilting the camera a little bit to make it more exciting. But is that the truth of the situation? Isn't that just because the picture actually is boring? Is that the way to solve it? No, it isn't. Photography is, in exclamation marks, it is hard work. You have to look for it. You have to earn the success. So you have to take new pictures over and over again. And going out in the field doesn't give you 100 really good pictures a day. If you get one, you're lucky. If you get 10, you're really lucky and clever. But some days there's no outcome. It is like going to a fishing trip. You have to fish over and over again, and then suddenly the fish will be there. You will catch it. If you don't feel inspired, go out anyway. Bring your camera anytime, any day, and suddenly it happens. Suddenly it is there. And it is the odd moments that are interesting. It is not the normal ones. It is the odd moments where something looks different than it usually do. Go and hunt for that. Find the inspiration in that. And maybe you have to take 50 photos of something that is ordinary, and one of them shows to be not so ordinary. Because what is interesting is when we walk out and take pictures, some of them we know instantly will be good. Sometimes they also are. Others we just take. We have no idea what it should bring us, but we can't stop pressing the shutter button. And when we come home, look them up on the computer or on the negative if you're a film guy or woman, then suddenly something appears that wasn't there when you saw it, in that sense that you maybe noticed it without thinking about it. It was there for some reason. For some reason you took the picture and then it shows up. It is interesting, maybe because of odd skewed lines that are not what they should be in a perfect world where everything should be straight and vertical and horizontal or circular. Then sometimes they are a little out of focus, maybe they are distorted a little bit, and that makes it interesting. So try to throw all those rules away you have learned in school, on photo schools or whatever, and think more freely. It's okay to learn the rules first, because then you have a basic understanding, but after that, close the book, forget about it, be happy, just shoot, because then you begin to live an experience, and the camera is an elongated view of your mind, what you're looking at, because what you are looking at is different from what I'm looking at. And this is the interesting thing about photography. 10 photographers in this room will take 10 different pictures. Some of them might look a little alike, but we all see things differently. That's the beauty of photography. But making rules, demanding what you do and how you do it, is the worst thing you can do. Free yourself, take your camera, click the button, and look what happens. That's the most important thing. Rules can really hinder you thinking about what you want to do, because if rules is everything all the time, balance, compositions, rule of thirds, light and shadow, can this be out of focus or can't it, all of that can kill the intuitive approach to a scenery, and it can stop you from actually hitting that shutter button and capture the picture, because you're obsessed with rules and how you should compose the picture. Of course you should compose your picture, but it has to be trained over and over again, so it's not something that you don't think about, it is just something you do. And that day, with that guy telling that female photographer that it wasn't a good framing she did because it was a little off, exactly like my camera is pointing at me now, is a killer of creativity, because it was intuitive. She framed that picture on purpose. That's what she felt for. That was the right decision. And if this guy hadn't spoken up about that and teaching her this was wrong, I would never have thought about it. I would never have any thoughts about this should be odd or off or anything, because nobody ever told me that that was the only way to do it. And I'm married to an artist, so I know how you can change and skew and distort things and make them more interesting than if they are taken by the traditional and very formal style. So free yourself, have fun, go shooting. That's the most important thing. Then we can talk about lenses, we can talk about different kinds of framing, vertical, horizontal, portrait mode, all of that stuff we can talk about and make photography interesting and alive. But rules are there to not be broken, but to be thrown away, because we shouldn't even think about them. So when you are a trained photographer, repeating what you're doing, you'll then automatically begin to feel and sense what is the right framing for you, because it can't be different from me, because what we put in that square or rectangular space, leaving everything out, is the way we look at the world. That's why my approach to photography is mainly going through a 50mm lens, because I like that view. That doesn't mean that a tele lens or a wide angle lens is wrong for somebody else. It's just a different expression. So again, free yourself from restrictions, free yourself from only making things look one way. You can make it look any kind of way. There is no limits in photography. Remember, photography is still very young. It is not aged like painting or music or philosophy. It is much younger, and we are just exploring what we can do with that. And if you read magazines like the Leica magazine here, you will see many examples of very classic but very beautiful photos. You will also find something that is sometimes just situations and a little odd to look at. Very inspirational magazine, by the way, and buy books about photography and search for what you like, and do not search for rules of thirds, search for inspiration.